Here's the battle for you guys. TheKillerNacho versus Magnitude.
So here's a really sweet match with Magnitude, and yeah, he's a good friend of mine on YouTube, and we just have a ball here. So he leaves with Infernape, I leave with Jirachi. I don't want to take a Fire-type move, so I go into Gyarados, and that's a pretty good switch. He goes for the Flare Blitz, and I really wish I remembered he had the Flare Blitz, like, at the end of the video. You'll see. But, yeah, he switches here because he kind of has to, and he goes into a Gengar as I switch into a Flygon, which is pretty good for me since my Flygon is Scarfed. So I'm just going to go for the Stone Edge, figuring it'll do damage to pretty much anything that switches in. And he goes into a Shaman, and it doesn't do like anything to it, so right off the bat this thing is bulky Shaman. So I go into Rachi, as he said, with Elite Sheeds, and that's kind of annoying. And I'm just going to go for the trick here because I want to trick my Choice Scarf into something, preferably this Shaman. But instead he goes out into his Mence, which I kind of don't want to trick a Choice Scarf, but now I have to. And he tricks me a Life Orb, and that makes me kind of think this is a Mix Mets that has become oh so popular these days. So I decide to switch. I go into Gyarados hoping he'll go for the Earthquake, but instead he plays it pretty nicely and goes for the Draco Meteor, which will do quite a lot of damage to Gyarados. But at least now I know he's locked in Draco Meteor, and after -2 special attack, he shouldn't be able to do like anything to Jirachi. So I just go into Jirachi as he goes for the Draco Meteor. And, yeah, like I said, that does nothing to Jirachi with, you know, the special defense drop or special attack drop and everything. So he goes back into Shaman. I'm just going to take the time to set up Stealth Rocks because it's really useful. And I go for the Iron Head pretty much to see how much it does. And I flinched it, which is kind of nice, but it still does nothing, even with a Life Orb. So I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to take this thing's leftovers. I mean, it's actually not too bad of an idea, because bulky Shaman kind of, you know, relies on them. So he sets up the Leech Seed on me, so obviously I'm going to switch. And he decides to switch as well into Empoleon, and I go into a Raikou, which is a pretty nice switch for me. I thought he would predict the Thunderbolt and, like, switch out himself, but instead he makes a great play and roars me as I tried to set up a sub. But now I'm back into Gyarados, and I really I saw the roar, so I'm thinking this is like not like, you know, those sweeper Empoleons, so I just go for the taunt, and he tries to set up Stealth Rock, so at least I block that, which is pretty nice. And he switches now, and he goes back into his Shaman of Doom, and I set up a Dragon Dance, which is pretty good. And I pretty much decide to taunt it here because I really don't want it to be setting up anything. And he goes for the Seed Flare, so he predicted my taunt pretty nicely and takes down Gyarados, which is good for him. So Gyarados is down, and that's never a good thing. So I go into Gengar, pretty much to force the switch, and I decide to set up the sub on the switch. But he goes into an Umbreon, and this is a really, really strange Umbreon, and I really like it because it's just so randomly good against ghost types. First of all, he has the Sucker Punch, so he breaks my sub with that, as I try to go for the Focus Blast, but I miss, which sucks. But I set up the sub again, thinking that he's going to try to Sucker Punch again, but this Umbreon also has Pursuit, so he goes for that. So after I see the Pursuit, I'm like, crap. He pretty much trapped this Gengar, and I won't be able to do anything. So that really, really, really blows. I try to set up the sub again, hoping he might predict a Sucker Punch, but he doesn't. He just keeps going for Pursuit, and I kind of figure he's going to keep using Pursuit just to get a guaranteed KO on Gengar. So I'm thinking, whatever, I'll do as much damage I can do to it with Focus Blast, so that's what I do. I just go for the Focus Blast. It does about half to the Umbreon, and the Umbreon's going to be able to take me out with Pursuit, which just completely sucks. And I lose Gengar. So I go into my Scizor, and this is my Choice Band Scizor. I'm just going to U-turn to see what he does, and he just keeps his Umbreon in to die, because Choice Band Scizor is going to be able to one-hit KO Umbreon with U-turn, obviously. So I go into Flygon here, pretty much because I think Flygon is faster than most of his team, and I can see what he goes into. And he goes into this Shaman again, and I'm just going to U-turn. It's super effective, and I can send out something a little better than Flygon against Shaman. So I go back into my Jirachi, and he goes for the Seed Flare, but he missed. Not that it would have done a whole lot to Jirachi anyway. And I really hoped I could KO it with Fire Punch, but he survived. I think he said really low hit points. I think it was like 7, or I don't even remember how much exactly. But he survived just barely and gets off a rest. And I'm like, no, what I really should have done is went for the Iron Head and tried to like hacks him out a little. But it didn't happen. He happened to go in my favor that way. So I go into Flygon now, predicting his switch pretty much, because I thought he'd go into, actually I was predicting a switch into, Mence or something. But he goes into this Empoleon, actually. I'm just going to go for the Earthquake, because it's super effective. And unfortunately, I do hit him below 1/3, so he gets Torrent, and he surfs me, which does a lot of damage after Torrent. It's actually going to hit me down to about that same amount of health. Yeah, it kind of blows. But I think he's going to predict the Earthquake again, obviously, since I'm locked into it. So he goes out into Mence. I go out in Jirachi. So that's kind of whatever. I really thought he would try to predict a switch in a Flygon, but he doesn't. He goes for the Earthquake, and that kind of blows for me. I'm just going to take Jirachi out, unfortunately, but now I can get pretty much a safe switch into Flygon, pretty much because I know for a fact he's not going to, stay in here because he can't hit Flygon with Earthquake. So he goes out into Empoleon. I'm just going to U-turn the Empoleon, and that allows me to send out something that can kill Empoleon, like Raikou, and I'm going to just Thunderbolt and take this thing out because I don't like it, and he pretty much death fodders it. I mean, it's kind of useless to him at this point, so I'll just finish it off, and that's that. So, no longer does Empoleon exist. Anyway, Raikou is healing nicely with leftovers. He goes into Mence, and, I decided to go out into, Scizor here, because I'm pretty sure Scizor can take an Earthquake, and especially that Draco Meteor he tried to use, because he tried to predict a switch into Flygon. But Scizor takes it quite nicely. As you can see, I have 252 EV spread in HP here, which is nice. And I'm just going to U-turn, and he goes into Gengar. Raikou has more base speed than Gengar, so I decided to go out into that, and I'm just going to T-Bolt kill this Gengar. I did get a crit, but I really don't think it mattered. I mean, Raikou's special defense or special attack is amazing, and Thunderbolt's like stabbed and stuff. I don't think that crit mattered, but oh well. So anyway, here I make a really big misplay. I see that it has damage when switching in, so I think it's Life Orbed. And I completely forgot his attack in the beginning was Flare Blitz. And that really sucks because I was thinking it was Scarfed, and it actually is Scarfed. But I completely forgot about the Flare Blitz, so that blows. And that is going to end up costing me the match, that misplay. But that's all I'm really going to say about it. It was still a great match. So he closed combats because he locked into it. I go into Scizor, and after -2 special defense and special attack, or sorry, special defense and defense, I thought I could kill it with Bullet Punch. And he makes the good play and just switches it into Salamence. And now he's going to be able to go back into Scizor, lock himself into the Fire-type move, and that'll be pretty much the match. I try to go into Mence here, or to Raikou here, pretty much as death fodder. Basically, to try to get as much damage with the recoil damage with Flare Blitz, and try to finish off with Bullet Punch, but I'm not going to be able to quite do it. He's going to actually finish himself off with the recoil, which means the match ended in a 1-0. But, yeah, great game, Mag. Sucks that I misplayed there, but you really played great. It was my fault, so it was a legit win for you. Rate, comment, subscribe, guys. Really fun, Mags. Yada, yada, yada. Peace, dudes. Alright. Bye. Alright, guys, real quick. Today's type is Dragon. I was using Flygon, he was using Salamence, so I decided to use Dragon as my type of the day. My favorite Dragon is actually one that wasn't in the match. Mine is Dragonite. Just pretty much because I'm an old school fan of Pokemon, and Dragonite was from the first gen, and I've always liked it. Now that it has extreme speed, it finally does something better than Mence, so I'm really looking forward to using it in future battles. But leave a comment about your favorite Dragon type, and see you next time.